Okay, to hook up the receiver on this side of the fuselage, I've already marked all my connectors. That makes it a lot easier to get them all hooked up. I got T marked for my throttle. This one goes black wire up, as I recall. I ended up got roll an R marked for my aileron. So I got that marked with an R for roll. There it is. I've got a pitch, a P marked for my elevator. It's pitch. I've got a yaw marked, a Y marked for my rudder. The gear is typically what you run your gain on a helicopter, so I have a G marked on a connector here, and I plug that into the gear for gain. AUX 1 is typically collective pitch for a model helicopter, so I plug the collective pitch into AUX 1. I'll plug conversion into AUX 2. I have that marked with a C. Double checking polarity on all these. And then the AUX connector, it's not used, but I'll just plug it in to stow it in the last connector here. And that gets your receiver all hooked up. Double check and make sure these are all the way fully seated. It's typical problem. People don't make sure they're all fully seated. That gets the receiver. Batteries will connect to these. Obviously, these DIN connectors are for the battery leads. And your batteries just Velcro into this slot. We give you the Velcro for your batteries. And the kit comes with an extra set of female DINs if your batteries that you buy don't have DINs. Use a 2200 milliamp 4-cell pack for this aircraft, 2 of them, one for the right and one for the left side. Then the last thing you got to do is your gyros. So you essentially have 3 gyros. To hook these up on the board, if your gyro has the Futaba style polarity pin on it, that stuff's got to come off, and I'll just dike that stuff off because it won't fit. I'll dike that off, and I'll dike this little tab that they use to disconnect the. So these need to be set up, you know, more equivalent to the JR style with smooth sides. And now after I get those cut off, I may just clean them up with an X-Acto knife here. Make sure there's nothing sticking out. They'll fit much better if they're perfectly flush to the connector. I also we'll take the time and shorten up all these 520 jumpers. It's a lot of work. I'll go over that in a later video, what it takes to do that. It's not too bad if you do it kind of an organized way, but they only need to be about 3 inches long each, and they look like they're about a foot long, so it's a lot of extra wire to drag around with you. You just have to be careful. You wouldn't want to reduce the reliability, so you want to make sure you do a real good job of soldering those together. So that's that. So we hook up these 3 connections here. Try to get a decent shot of this. So I pull one of the gyro leads. I have it marked roll. The orange is associated with the gain, and the black is associated with the signal. And then there's an equivalent lead coming out of the board, and I said this one's the roll one. So I find the roll lead, and I'll plug the roll lead into the back side of this connector, double checking polarity. So roll goes to roll. And the roll one's marked roll on the board, and the gain connector goes down, making sure your polarity is kept correct. And then the signal wire goes on top of that gain wire, and all those 3 wires are in the same location. All 3 roll wires come out of that same slot, so they should all be pretty much stacked on top of each other. The next one is the pitch. So this one's got a P marked on it, and I'll find my pitch connector. That's the one that's pulled through from the other side. Double check polarity, and I'll plug this pitch wire in the back, the controller in the back side of this. I have these both marked pitch. I'll double check polarity. The gain one goes down. Slide the gain one in, and then slide the signal one in right on top of it. And then my last one's the yaw. I'll find that yaw wire coming off the controller. I know it's here somewhere. Let's see if it's tucked in somewhere. There it is. Okay, so I'll find this yaw wire coming off the controller. Sure enough, it's marked Y. I'll double check polarity and plug it into the back of the yaw gyro connector. These 2 are identified with a Y each. The gyro one goes against the bottom of the board. The gyro gain connector, the orange one, goes against the bottom of the board, and double checking polarity. And then the yaw one, the signal one, goes on the top slot of the board, double checking polarity. And so that's, seems like a lot of wiring, but it's really pretty straightforward. And the only thing you're really left with this 520 setup that's a real mess is all this wire that really can be shortened. And I'll go over how to stow all this wire and to move it out of the way. So what you want to do next is double check every connection before you put the power onto the ship. So go through it and just double check each one for polarity. and it's plugged into the right slot, and I guarantee you it'll save you a lot of hassle later on.